Welcome to Magical Books for Kids, a podcast sponsored by Magic Everywhere, Inc., a company based in Florida. Hosted by Michael John Sullivan, this is your place to hear the very best children's stories and an opportunity to get to know your favorite authors. Now, here is Michael John Sullivan.
Welcome to Magical Books for Kids. I'm Michael John Sullivan. Again, thank you for joining us for another edition sponsored by Magic Everywhere Inc., a company based in Kissimmee, Florida. This particular podcast, Magical Books for Kids, is free on all platforms. We want to welcome children's author Stefanie Potts. She is a wife and mother to 4 young children, 3 boys and a girl. Her family lives outside of Chicago. Stefanie received a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Quincy University and currently works as a publishing associate for Coleman Jones Press. Stefanie has a passion for supporting families and building strong bonds and relationships. Our society is dependent on raising strong children in our homes. Certainly that's true. Her first book focuses on sibling relationships starting in the womb. What better way to foster a relationship with siblings than through love? Stefanie Potts, welcome to Magical Books for Kids. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Well, first of all, let's start with your childhood. Were there any particular childhood books that you loved or read a lot? For me, it was always sports books. I was always inundating myself with sports books. But as a child, were there any particular books that you loved and inspired you to become the children's author you are today?
I'm very story oriented. The best way for me to learn was always the teachers that told me the stories. In fact, social studies for me was either an A+ or I was really struggling to get by based on the presentation of the teacher. If the teacher was very story-based, I could ace that class like nobody's business. But if it was a teacher that's like, here, read this book of facts, man, that was a tough class for me. So I love to listen to stories. I love to read stories. I'm very story-based.
Right. And we can hear, because this is the amazing part about podcasting. In the past, we've done about 40 to 45 podcasts, and it's either something's happening, the dog's barking in the background, some child comes in and starts talking to mom or dad, in the middle of it and everything. And that's what makes the podcast so wonderful. So we mentioned you have four young children, and
Yes.
they're within like 8 years of each other.
Yes.
Yeah. So mom's an author. I'm sure mom reads to them all the time, or do you have time to read? Children, you work a job as well. So how do you work that all into your schedule?
You just have to work every nook and cranny of your life. My kids come first. And so when my kid brings me a book and asks me to read, if at all possible, I try and make it happen, especially at that moment. We read a lot of books. Sometimes we read the same book many, many, many times. In fact, just recently we were at the beach, and this book that I have probably read to my 3-year-old about 1,000 times is My Truck is Stuck. And it's the story about a truck being stuck and just everybody coming to help the truck get out of the pothole. Well, we were on the beach and he had his construction truck and he built this little pothole and his truck was stuck, and he was replaying the whole story on the beach. It was just, that was the moment I was like, well, he is hearing what I'm saying because I've read that story about 1,000 times, but he got something out of it. So yes, we do read in our house, and we work every nook and cranny where we can.
It's the amazing part about children is they can read the same thing over and over and over again. It's the same thing with a particular TV show as well. I was a work-at-home dad, and so I handled, quite a bit of our 2 daughters that were home and everything. So that was a challenge. And a lot of times you put the same videotape, at the time it was VHS.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm dating myself. My kids are now 27 and 23 at this point.
I'm a VHS baby.
Are you?
Yeah.
So it's like it's got full circle here, right? With your book and everything with your children. So as I said, they would see the same thing over and over and over again. And you get to know the songs too, And back then it was Barney and all these other different things that were there. The Rugrats, things like that.
Yes.
Those are the big things. So a truck is stuck, right? That's the book, the name of the book.
Yes. My truck is stuck.
My truck is stuck. Are there any other books that your other three kids that seem to read quite a bit, or?
Let's see. Some of the classics, The Giving Tree, the Very Hungry Caterpillar. Those are some of the favorites that keep coming back. They get those in school for sure, and then I read this book at school. I need to read it again. Right now, my oldest is into what is it?
And this one is 8 years old.
Yes, yeah, my 8-year-old. I could see the pictures. It's those graphic novels. He's into a lot of the graphic novels right now. And Pete the cat is a big person in our house. Pete the cat.
Do they watch a lot of the educational TV that's available? Or I know there's so many channels now out there between the streaming services and the channels. It was a lot different when I was growing up. But I'm not going to say when I was growing up because it's way back.
So we actually don't have cable in my house.
Oh, you don't? Wow.
We don't have cable in my house.
Okay.
We do have a TV in the basement, but my kids don't really go down there. We do have the basic channels. We do have streaming. We have Netflix. Trying to think what else, but I mean, ultimately they do have tablets. Not my youngest, she doesn't have a tablet, but the others do have tablets. And my son, my 4-year-old right now, is very interested in how things work. And so he asks a lot of questions, and a lot of questions I really just don't have the answer to. Like, where does the water go after it leaves our house? So there are all kinds of educational YouTube videos or things like that. And I will find there's lots that are child-based. So I will go on YouTube and I will find like National Geographic's for kids, what happens to the water, after it leaves your sink. They have that. So I pulled it up on the tablet and he does watch it, and then he teaches me. It's like, okay.
That's pretty good for a 4-year-old to actually ask you where the water goes. Now I'm interested in where the water goes from this place.
There is a National Geographic for kids that explains it.
It does. Isn't that interesting? What an inquisitive child. Wow. Okay. So that seems like that might be your teacher in the future. Somebody, college professor or something like that. So when you wrote your book, I mean, did you test it with your children, or did you read it to your children, or is this something that may not be for them at this point? What kind of an audience are you shooting for with this particular book? I mean, you should say that the book is called My Way, Love Letter. It's a love letter, right, from your child.
Yeah, so it's called On My Way, and it's a love letter from your new baby. So it's for a family where mom is expecting and there's already children at home.
Okay.
I did not have this finished to use with my children.
Okay.
But what it came from is being an educator. Number one thing that educators do, especially when we want to help kids learn something new or make a transition, we read books. So when I finally became pregnant with my second one, my older one was almost 4. And so he was old enough to kind of have the conversation about what was going to happen in the home and what the changes were going to be. And I looked high and low for a book for a big sibling. There are some really great big sibling books out there that explain the changes.
Right.
But they were very, very direct. There wasn't a lot of relationship value in these books. It was more or less, you're going to have to be patient. Mom is going to be busy. The baby's going to be tired. The baby's going to cry. It was very fact-based. And I was looking for something relationship-based. There were a few that talked about relationships, but I wasn't overly pleased with some of the ways that they talked about relationships. And maybe they were trying to prepare the child that there may be some bad feelings, but the way that it went about it, I was kind of appalled. There were some that talked about the big sibling hating the new baby until it was older, and then they realized that her and the new baby could team up against mom and dad. What did you just teach your child by reading them that book? So that was really hard for me. I couldn't find a book. So we did a lot of talking in my house with my children as I was bringing home new babies. But no, my kids didn't get to read this book. In fact, I felt like this was very much given to me by God. I'm a Christian. So for me, I felt like this was God. And I felt like the timing of when my book came out was kind of like God saying, you have completed my mission. My book was available the day my daughter was born, my last baby, my fourth one. So it was kind of like, you've completed this mission. You started it with baby number one, wanting to help him transition. And now here's baby number 4, and your book is available the same time. So I actually joke that I gave birth to twins that day, or to 2 babies, but they weren't twins. I had my book baby that I had been working on for almost 4 years. And then my new baby little girl.
Something you're always going to remember. Now, how are they doing for 4 kids and so close in age, right? I mean, there's pretty close in age.
Yeah, my last 3 are very close.
Yeah. So how is that working in the dynamic of your house? Now, this was the type of book I wish had been around when we had our 2 daughters. So it'd been very interesting to read it, because it seems like you've taken the positive approach.
Yes.
Somebody writing a book saying about how they're going to hate the other one. It's like, oh boy, that's not a very good way to move forward with that particular relationship in the house. So
yes.
So how has that worked with you in the real life of it?
We're very family based. We talk a lot about our brothers and sisters. We talk a lot about helping out. I often get the question, why do I have to help clean this up when I didn't make this mess? And we have the conversation that we're a family and this is how a family functions. And if you would like to, do something else in this room later today, you are going to come and help clean this up, or you're not going to have a place to play. So, everything reverts back to the family and how the family functions together. And you are a part of this family. So you're going to help, work for the family. You're going to help, work together, and we're going to build the relationships. And I need you to be my partner to, help the little ones. The little ones have to help each other. We have to watch out for each other. That's how the family functions. So you don't function other ways. You're not here by yourself. There are 5 other people in this house, and we have to work together.
Right. So it sounds like you're working it as a unit. Everybody's part of the unit.
Absolutely. Great way to explain it.
Yeah. It's sort of like I worked at Disney for a year, and their whole big thing was everybody, if you see something that was laying on the ground, it was your responsibility to pick it up, whether you were in maintenance or not. So we were all part of the same team. So it's sort of like that mentality that you have with your household, that if there's something laying on the ground or something, everybody's there to help in that sense. And I think if you install it at a very young age, it stays with them and becomes part of their everyday habits, right? Is that what you're shooting for?
Absolutely. I feel like too often we are so surrounded by, raising our children to be the best that they can be and giving them every opportunity, and making sure that they have the best shoes and the best iPad and this, that, and everything. We get caught up in all of that, where we forget the relationship value of everything. And so we're raising up these children that don't know how to have relationships. And we're really struggling. And I think that we need to teach them. I mean, honestly, the world should be working as a unit together. We're all here together. It should be for the good of everybody. And you should help somebody. I have had many people come out of their way to come and help me get me to where I am in my life. If it wasn't for my publisher, believing in my story and believing in me, I wouldn't have this book.
Right. Now, is your publisher, is that the one you're currently working for?
Yes, we built a really great relationship, and she, brought me on the team and saw some possibilities that I didn't even see in myself. So that was really great. That comes back to that whole unit. She found something in me and brought me to join the team.
It says you're a publishing associate. So what are your tasks during the week now, besides taking care of 4 children? What do you do for Coleman Jones Press?
All right. So I work with our authors through the whole publishing process, from the beginning, talking about, sorry,
That's okay.
From the beginning, explaining the whole publishing process and how everything works, to communicating with our graphic designers and illustrators, to page layout. And then after that, we actually have one thing that I love about our publishing company is that we go beyond just getting your book published is we help you. I mean, we are choosing to publish your book for a reason. There's a message in your story.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that we're going to do all this work to help you get your book out there. So just because you have a book, if you don't get it out there, then what's the point? So
Right. So this
you know,
isn't
we want to pass on the messages.
Yeah, so this isn't a type of publisher where they just take your money and then you don't hear from them for like forever.
No.
No. So you're involved and you're helping them after it's published. Is that the viewpoint?
Yeah. So we help with promotion and getting it out there. And one of the ways that I got to know my publisher so much is because we had continuing education. So even after my book was published, I mean, we were still meeting together. Some of the authors were kind of clumped together, and we had some classes together talking about like ways to get your book out there. You know, what is the purpose of your book and where are you going to take it? Because I didn't just write this, or I didn't just, you know, publish this book for you because, you know, there's a message and we want to make sure that it does get out there. So, you know, the social, beyond social media and stuff like that, how do we get our message out there?
And how did you do during the pandemic? I mean, you're just outside of Chicago, so you guys were shut down for a pretty long time, as opposed to me here in Florida. We've been open up for over a year now. But how did you deal with everything, and of course with the school situation?
So my son actually goes to private school, and the private school was open.
Okay.
Yes. So he was going to school. Most things were shut down. Restaurants were shut down. A lot of stuff was shut down. So I really kind of stayed at home and focused on my social media base and tried to build that up and to, you know, network and connect with other people as best as I could. So, and actually it was fruitful.
How was it as far as social media? You know, I speak to independent publishers. I've spoken to people like Laura Numeroff, who wrote, if you gave a mouse a cookie, or if you give a pig a pancake.
I love those stories.
Yeah, they were the stories that my kids grew up on. So it was an honor to have her on too. But it's a different type, is where she's selling millions of books, and 99% of people who are children's authors like us who are doing it. We have to be our own social media marketing people, and it takes a great deal of time to push the word out, because you're competing against like 5 million other people with books. How have you done with that?
I started this book because I wanted to help other families have a positive transition. And my whole philosophy behind all of this is to build strong families. So I actually have my own Facebook page, Purposefully Parenting 365, where I offer just tips on how to be purposeful in your parenting. And every opportunity that I get, I share my personal stories, what's happening in my family, and how I handle it. Because a lot of times something will happen and it will be like an aha moment for me. And I realize that I've been given a gift where I have those aha moments, but I know that not everybody has those aha moments. And I'm just hoping to maybe like flip a switch for somebody where they might be able to turn around their way of thinking, that maybe their child isn't really being annoying or that they really are being bad. Maybe there's something else triggering it, so that we can continue to, raise strong families. And the families are being attacked right now, and we need to support each other. Because if I just focus on my family and I raise 4 great kids, it's really not doing anything for anybody else. And honestly, I'm setting my kids up for failure, because they may get to a point where they can't find a friend because they don't know how to communicate with other people around us. So I want to share what I know, what I've learned, and hope that I bring in other parents too. There's actually quite a few authors that are very active on my page with important information on families and reading. So yeah, I just focus on social media with that, because that's my mission, not just my book. My book is secondary. My first mission is strong families.
Right. So you mentioned Purposely Parenting 365 as a Facebook page and on Instagram.
Yes.
So basically, you're providing free information as well as thoughts and things like that may help somebody who's having a bad day, or the child is having a bad day, and maybe there's something they read or they see that will help them get through it. So that's the whole idea behind it, which is really good. First of all, it's helpful, and it's good marketing strategy where you're actually helping others. And you finding a lot of participation there because when you're a young parent, I remember when we first had ours, okay, it was like, whoa, you know, you can't bring it's not a TV set. You can't bring the TV set back and change things. It's there and your life changes completely. People
Yes.
don't realize that. If you haven't had a child or something like that, it changes completely. And there's that overwhelming feeling of love that you have for this particular person that now you are the primary caretaker and protector of this particular person. And you will not feel like that in any other way unless you have gone through it. At least that's the point. That's right. And you can ask your child like about how the children feel about mommy and everything. But how did you feel when you had your first? What was your feeling when you brought home your first child?
I had always wanted to be a mom, so it was this amazing feeling. I was so excited, so happy. But there's some fear, you know. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, I had babysat for years. You know, I was top notch there, but it's so different when it's your child and when it's 24/7. Like there's no mom's walking in the door and I can leave. Like I'm mom, I'm here, and there's nowhere for me to go.
Right. As you said, 24/7, you know. So are there any more books that you have planned down the road, or is this like a series where people can look forward to every year or so, or a book coming out about this particular subject? Because let's face it, it's a desert out there, you know, with that type of books.
Yes. So this is not a series, but I do have a handful of books that I have already cleared through my publisher that I will be working on, and they're all family based. So just to build strong families.
Is there one particular point of your first book that you feel people should come away with? Is there a particular main point, a core point of the particular book?
Just that you should be fostering a relationship with love between your siblings before they're even born. When there's still that baby in the womb, you should be talking about it pleasantly. You should be, you know, oh, the baby loves you. Why don't you give the baby a hug? You know, create that positivity, that warmth, that love from the beginning, because that is a hard transition, especially if kids don't understand, if they're really young and they've only had mom and dad and they don't know how to share, you know, their love. You know, this is the opportunity to do it. And it's in a letter format, which is really great. So it starts off with dear big, and then mom and dad are to add in brother or sister, or you can even add the name of the child, just to make it personal, that it is special for them.
Right. So you can actually personalize a book. Say, for example, a parent has a 4-year-old and they're expecting, you know, and they can personalize that book for the particular 4-year-old, right? That's the whole point where the 4-year-old has the book and establishing the relationship. Because I don't recall whether we actually did that for our, you know, between the first and when the second one was due. You know, because you get so busy with life and everything, and you're not, you know, you're working, you're both working, and you're going back and forth and everything. And you're doing everything you can to keep up with the first one, and then there's a second one on the way. So that's very interesting. I never even thought about that. That's a great idea for, you know, any kind of parent that always has a child that could actually develop that conversation and discussion, as you said. Because I don't see much of that out there.
We get so busy in our work life and so busy in you know, our tablets and our electronics and keeping up with everything else that it's a lost art. And that's one of the things that I want to promote is having those conversations. And when your child's really upset and they're doing something bad, have that conversation with them. Start to build that inner voice with them. Too often our kids don't know how to cope because we haven't taught them. We're not there 24/7 anymore. I'm home. I'm lucky that I am able to work from home. But I know, like, when I was being raised, my mom was home. When, you know, my neighbors, all the moms were home. And if my mom had to step out for something, but she sent us to the park with Betty Sue's mom would then, you know, parent us and talk to us about those coping mechanisms. So, you know, it is a lost art, and we need to reteach like that, the inner voices and what we really should be thinking and helping them through those difficult times.
Now, is there a particular time, I'm going technical with this, during the pregnancy, is there a particular time of how many months along you could start the conversation, or do you start it right away?
I think that as soon as you're ready to announce it to family in public and stuff like that.
I see. Okay.
I know some people kind of hold off, but as soon as you're ready, because once you start talking about with your child's going to start talking about it. So
Sure.
if you want to be the first one to tell them that, as soon as you're comfortable with that, then I think as early as possible, as early as you can, because it gives them more time to kind of imagine it, more time to think about it, more time to show it out in public. Like if you're sitting at a restaurant and there's a baby at the table next to you, there's nothing wrong with saying, oh, look, there's a beautiful baby. That's going to be like baby. And then, you like our baby, or like, baby Elliot, baby,
Right.
whatever, so just having those conversations and giving them as many opportunities. They like to read those stories over and over and over again. They like to talk about it over and over and over again too, because it helps them comprehend. It helps them, bring it to mind, to make it more real.
Right. Was there a particular time when you were comfortable in going ahead and doing it? Was it 4 or 5 months? Was there any...
I was always like, I was so excited that I couldn't keep it in. So
Okay.
I mean, pretty everybody knew from the beginning
Right.
when I was pregnant, because I was just so excited. So
Right.
no, we talked about it from the beginning.
Okay. So people can find your book on Amazon, right? As well as the other online stores?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what, you got a book too, do you? I'm sure you're ready. So they can find it on Amazon. Stefanie Potts. Let me spell your name, because it's spelled differently than most people have told me. Stefanie Potts. P as in Peter, Otts. You can Google your name, put writer in there, and you'll find it. So I see that all the time. So congratulations on this great book. This is a book, as I said, I wish it was around when we were having our children, but I'm sure it can help many others. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, and we hope if you have another book, we'd love to have you on again and talk about another subject.
All right, great.
Parents can always use help. Believe me, I know. When we had our first one, I was like, I was like so scared, And then the second one wouldn't stop crying the night that she was born. And I said, oh my goodness, is she ever gonna stop crying? Oh, and that was like my thought as I left the hospital that night. So
you made it through, right?
Yeah, I made it through. Yeah, 27, 23 at this point. So they're both great human beings, and that's all you can ask for.
Absolutely.
So thank you again, Stefanie Potts, for joining us here on Magical Books for Kids. And I'm Michael John Sullivan, and we hope that you listen to this podcast. It's free on all platforms, and it is sponsored by Magic Everywhere INC in Kissimmee, Florida. Again, I'm Michael John Sullivan. Join us again next week for another edition.
Thank you for listening to Magical Books for Kids, a podcast sponsored by Magic Everywhere INC, a company based in Florida, hosted by Michael John Sullivan. This is your place to hear the very best children's stories and an opportunity to get to know your favorite authors. Join us for another fun storytelling podcast next week.